Hello, book lovers. This week, I'm going to tell you about two books that I recently read, both by Joe Hill. Joe Hill, whose real name is Joseph Hillstrom King, was born on June 4th, 1972, the eldest son and middle child of Stephen and Tabitha King. Over the past, say, two and a half weeks, I listened to two of his books on Audible. That was how I read them. I listened to his first book called Heart-Shaped Box from 2007, and his third book called Nosferatu from 2013. And I'm going to read you a synopsis, the synopsis that I found on Audible in both cases, because it's much better than I could possibly write. And Maggie wants to give you her opinion of these books as well. I don't know if you can hear her out there, but I think she thinks I'm talking to her about something. First, Heart-Shaped Box. Judith Coyne is a collector of the macabre. A cookbook for cannibals, a used hangman's noose, a snuff film. He's an aging death metal rock god, and his taste for the unnatural is widely known. But nothing he possesses is as unlikely or as dreadful as his latest discovery. A thing so terrible and strange, Jude can't help but reach for his wallet. Someone will sell him their stepfather's ghost. Sold to the highest bidder. For $1,000, Jude will become the proud owner of a dead man's suit, said to be haunted by a restless spirit, and he isn't afraid. He has spent a lifetime coping with ghosts. The ghost of an abusive father, of the lovers he callously abandoned, of the bandmates he betrayed. What's one more? But what UPS delivers to his door in a black heart-shaped box is no imaginary or metaphorical ghost. It's the real thing. And suddenly the suit's previous owner is everywhere, behind the bedroom door, seated in Jude's restored vintage Mustang, standing outside his window, staring out from his widescreen TV, waiting, with a gleaming razor blade on a chain dangling from one hand. So that's the synopsis that you get that makes you want to read this book. Sounds good, yes? Now, Nosferatu, 2013. Victoria McQueen has an uncanny knack for finding things. A misplaced bracelet, missing photograph, answers to unanswerable questions. When she rides her bicycle over the rickety old covered bridge in the woods near her house, she always emerges in the places she needs to be. She doesn't tell anyone about her unusual ability because she knows no one will believe her. She has trouble understanding it herself. Charles Manx has a gift of his own. He likes to take children for rides in his 1938 Rolls-Royce Wraith with the vanity plate Nosferatu. In the Wraith, he and his innocent guests can slip out of the everyday world and onto hidden roads that lead to an astonishing playground of amusements he calls Christmasland. Mile by mile, the journey across the highway of Charlie's twisted imagination transforms his precious passengers, leaving them as terrified and unstoppable as their benefactor. And then comes the day when Vic goes looking for trouble and finds her way inevitably to Charlie. That was a lifetime ago. Now the only kid to ever escape Charlie's unmitigated evil is all grown up and desperate to forget. But Charlie Manx hasn't stopped thinking about the exceptional Victoria McQueen. On the road again, he won't slow down until he's taken his revenge. He's after something very special, something Vic can never replace. As the life and death battle of wills builds her magic pitted against us, Victoria McQueen prepares to destroy Charlie once and for all, or die trying. So that is the synopsis, which will make us want to read this book. I hate to compare Joe Hill to his father, but it's inevitable that one is going to bring up a comparison or a contrast or something. The first Stephen King book I read was, pardon me, little runny nose, was his first book of short stories. I can't remember the title of it. But that was his third or fourth book, and at that point I went back and started and read them from scratch, from the beginning, which would have been Carrie, then Salem's Lot, then I guess The Shining. Night Shift, I guess it was, the third. Anyway. And continued to the present day. I've missed some along the way, which I have hopes and plans to read. And I must admit that I have always preferred him when he bends toward the literary. That is books like The Stand, the novella, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. And like him least when he's tending towards science fiction like the Tommyknockers. That's just my personal preference. But the thing that I've always admired about him, whether it's one of my favorite books of his or not, is the way he develops his characters. His characters, it seems to me, are so well developed that sometimes when you finished reading the book, you find yourself thinking, oh, Stu Redmond, what would Stu be doing in this situation? Or wonder how Stu is doing how Stu is doing. Really, Stu is a fictitious character, but you find yourself thinking these things about these well-written characters. And that's what disappointed me about these two books by Joe Hill, particularly the second one. He is a writer who concentrates, I believe, more on plot than on characters. And if I don't understand the character's motivation, I don't really care at all what the plot is. Personally, I just don't care. I felt the first book was a little better, first of all, because the characters were a little better developed than the third book, which is the second one I read. And also because in the third book, it was much longer than the first one, and it almost seems like he just took on too much. The plot was vast and convoluted. A lot of, well, not a lot, but some flashbacks, enough that it was just confusing in some places. It seemed unnecessary sometimes, like maybe if he'd written it in a chronologically linear fashion, it would have flowed better. But mainly the characters just not being developed enough. If you don't, I didn't care very much. I found myself caring more about the ones in the first book than in the second book for the reason I've just described. So anyway, I would recommend these books to you if you are into pure horror with a strong supernatural element, that are plot driven and not really going in depth in the characterizations. Because you will then like these. I mean, I've noticed, I was looking at some of the reviews, people are really loving these books, but I'm suspecting that it's people who don't care that much about how deep the character is and care more for an exciting plot. So, I'm going to give them a 4 for plot and a 2 for characterization. And that's why my personal preferences are what they are, but yours might not be. Anyway, that's it. Love y'all. Bye.